Tubeless came to the world of road cycling roughly 10 years ago, and I converted my first road bike soon after. So why, after 8 years and thousands of miles, have I decided to ditch tubeless and go back to tubes? And what's it been like living with that setup for the last year? Well, stick around and I'll explain. I converted my road bike to tubeless because those clever marketing people made me these promises. But how many of those have been kept? Or more to the point, how many of those promises are even relevant on a road bike? First up, the big one, the puncture promise. Now, in an ideal environment, tubeless can and does work very well indeed. Take a mountain bike or gravel tyre, for example, running at 20 or 30 psi, stick a thorn in it, and it's pretty much guaranteed to seal every time. However, a road tyre has a smaller volume of air running under a lot more pressure. This smaller volume of air means the tyre will deflate a lot quicker, meaning that tubeless sealant has only got a narrow window of opportunity to do its thing before the tyre is flat. And also, your typical road tyre is running between 70 and 100 psi, and your sealant is going to struggle holding that amount of pressure back. Now, I'm not saying tubeless doesn't work on road bikes, but what I am saying, and most people with experience would agree, it doesn't work as effectively as it does on the lower pressure off-road and gravel tyres. And in the unfortunate event that it does fail out on the road, you've got to deal with a stubborn tubeless tyre, messy tubeless sealant, and you're putting a tube in, which you must remove as soon as you get home, otherwise it's going to stick. So on the promise of fewer punctures, I'm going to say questionable on that one. Yes, you may get fewer punctures, but the amount of hassle involved when it doesn't work can far outweigh the benefits of when it does. What about the claim that tubeless has a lower rolling resistance? Well, technically, in some applications, that is correct. But at road pressures on road surfaces, the difference, you're only looking at sort of between 1 and 3 watts. And that difference was calculated comparing tubeless to the old-fashioned butyl tube. If you compare it to either a latex or a TPU tube, the difference is so minuscule, it's not even worth a conversation. So, promise kept? No. What about the claim that you can run at lower pressures? Now, we all know if you run a tyre at a lower pressure, you increase the chance of a pinch puncture. So, on mountain bike and gravel, tubeless offers a huge benefit here. But, in comparison, on road, pinch punctures are a lot less common. But, when it does happen, it's usually quite a violent affair at speed involving something unpleasant like a pothole. So you do still get the pinch, but it happens to the tyre as opposed to the inner tube. And if that happens, you're putting an inner tube in. Additionally, you've then got to deal with a tyre that's got a pinch puncture. And here is an example of one that's been repaired. But let's be honest, it's a bit of a botch, isn't it? So you're probably going to want to buy a new tyre too. So, promise kept? I'm marking this one as questionable. What about the claim of improved comfort and grip? Yes, I agree. If you reduce the tyre's pressure, you increase its ability to deform over small objects and therefore increase both comfort and grip. However, it is also worth noting that compared to a standard clincher, a tubeless tyre will have a thicker sidewall, which will deform less and therefore, compared to the clincher, will have reduced comfort and grip. So, promise kept? Do you know what? I'm going to give tubeless this one. Yes, promise kept. So what about the claim that tubeless is lighter? So the claim goes that by removing the inner tube, you are saving roughly 120 grams per wheel. So I've got a couple of points on that. First of all, you're not taking into consideration what we're putting back into the wheel in place of the tube. And second of all, we moved away from these some time ago. So let's do a quick comparison using VeloFlex Corsa tyres and compare the weight of tubed and tubeless. So first of all, your tubed tyre, you're in a tube. Now this is a TPU tube. It weighs just 36 grams. Now there are lighter ones as light as 24 grams, but we'll err in the favour of tubeless and we'll say we'll use these tubes, which are slightly heavier version. So there you go, 36 grams. Now let's have a look at tubeless. Now we all know the tubeless version of any tyre is heavier because of the construction of it. Now in the case of the VeloFlex Corsa, we're looking at 35 grams increase. Right, and then we need to inject sealant, and roughly 50 millilitres of sealant weighs roughly 60 grams. And then we've got the tubeless valve. Now good ones like these RideNow ones, I'll link them down below for you, just 5 grams. So by the time you take all of that into consideration, on both wheels, you're looking at a total weight of 200 grams for the tubeless setup, compared to just 72 grams for the tubed setup. So the tubeless isn't lighter, it's actually 128 grams heavier in this case. So, promise kept? No. So I've got the laptop in front of me, let's do a quick recap. Fewer punctures? Questionable. Lower rolling resistance? No. Ability to run lower pressures? Questionable. Improve ride comfort and grip? Yes. Weight saving? No. So look, as far as off-road is concerned, those 5 key benefits are exactly that. They are a benefit. And when you get that revised 5 benefits list and compare it to the 5 most common complaints you hear about tubeless, I've got them listed here: messy, frustrating setup, increased maintenance and even more tools, pumping your tyres up at the beginning of each ride, difficult roadside maintenance and less tyre choice. You then begin to realise that for road at least, tubeless may not be the best idea for everyone. This isn't one of those mindless rants from a contentious Luddite that opposes any form of progress. You know, like people that say, compared to disc brakes, rim brakes are better in every possible way. I personally think tubeless is fantastic technology, and in the right application is the most logical choice. I've got 2 gravel bikes just there. Both of them are running tubeless because for that particular application, it is the most logical choice. For me personally, as far as road is concerned, tubeless has always been skating on thin ice. Slightly better puncture protection versus unpredictable pain in the arse. So am I saying you should all siphon your sealant and go back to the technology that was invented back in 1937? Well, no. For me personally, the introduction of the TPU tube hammered the last coffin nail into road tubeless. Do you know how hard it was to find a coffin nail? £3.80 a bag, in case you were wondering. So I've been running the TPU tubes on my road bike for the last 18 months now, and for me personally, I feel the TPU tube is the best choice for me on road. I didn't adopt the technology earlier because I felt that they looked very thin and flimsy, but it turns out that that is actually a benefit. The very thin tube itself means it will get less pinch flats, and its elasticity means that it will puncture less. The TPU tubes that I've been using on my road wheels for the last 18 months now are the RideNow ones. Now these have come down quite a lot in price recently. You can pick these up for as little as £3 a tube. I will link them down below for you. At the beginning of this video, I said I was going to tell you what it's been like living without tubeless on my road bike for the last year or so. So I brought Tubeless into my life for two simple reasons. Less flats, more comfort. What I got was the same amount of flats, just different ones, more comfort and a shed load of hassle. Moving from Tubeless to TPU means I now get less flats. Because tyre diameters are going up on road, we are naturally running them at a lower pressure anyway, so I am naturally enjoying a more comfortable ride. But additionally, because Tubeless is out of my life now, so are all the hassles that go with it. If you're running Tubeless and struggling with it, you might want to watch that video up there where I talk all things compressors. Or if you want to watch the video where I test out these very nice wheels up in the Yorkshire Dales here in the UK, check out that video there. Thanks for watching.